Today we are working Psalm 138. Psalm 138 is used to overcome trouble. It's used to overcome fear and to overcome anxiety. Another use for Psalm 138 is to bring love into your life and also to bring friendship into your life. So if you're looking for a partner or new friends, this is a great psalm for that as well. Today I'd like to use Psalm 138 to release anxiety. So anything that you're anxious over, we can let go of that anxiety with this psalm. The way we work psalm magic is very simple and very effective. We take the psalm in question and we read it out loud all the way through once without stopping. This we call an incantation. Then we take that same psalm and we go back through it and we consider each verse one at a time. And we look for hidden occult meanings that are within the words of each verse. We call those magic seeds. And it's through this digging and this searching and applying what we find there to the issue at hand that we, in a very visceral sense, find those seeds of magic and then plant the seeds in the fertile ground of our deep minds, where they, in a very real sense, take root. And then they grow, and they blossom forth, and then they bear fruit after their kind. And that is exactly what we are going to do together today with Psalm 138. I will praise thee with my whole heart. Before the gods will I sing praise unto thee. I will worship toward thy holy temple and praise thy name for thy loving kindness and for thy truth. For thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. In the day when I cried, thou answeredst me, and strengthenedst me with strength in my soul. All the kings of the earth shall praise thee, O Lord, when they hear the words of thy mouth. Yea, they shall sing in the ways of the Lord, for great is the glory of the Lord. Though the Lord be high, yet hath he respect unto the lowly, but the proud he knoweth afar off. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou wilt revive me. Thou shalt stretch forth thine hand against the wrath of mine enemies, and thy right hand shall save me. The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endureth forever. Forsake not the works of thine own hands. It starts out with, I will praise thee with my whole heart. The presence that we are addressing is the singular presence, the one source, the one force, the one power. So we orient ourselves to this. And the reason why is this is the power of psalm magic. There is a sense that since there's only one power, there's only one source, there's only one force, that there's nothing to oppose it. There's nothing to thwart it. Nothing can go up against it. And therefore, one with God is a majority. So whatever it is that you're coming to this psalm for, if you can first remind yourself that through this psalm you are orienting yourself to the force, the only force that is, then all power is available unto you. So I will praise thee with my whole heart. Now, the heart in the Semitic scriptures comes from a Chaldean expression for soul, and the soul was also synonymous with what we might call the subconscious mind or the deep mind. So I'm going to praise thee with my whole mind, with every part of me, the depths of my being. Now, what is praise? Praise is enthusiastically acknowledging that something is good. So we are praising, we are acknowledging with the entirety of our being that the one force, the one source, and the one substance of all of the universe is good. Before the gods will I sing praise unto thee. Boy, the theologians hate this one. Because it's so obviously a throwback to polytheism. It's so obviously a reminder that these psalms come from a very ancient source, and they can't seem to square the circle here. So we understand what this means. Before the gods will I sing praise unto thee. This is sphere number 4 on the tree of life. This is the understanding that all gods are one. All gods are one, and that's what the force is that we are addressing, the unity and the oneness of all gods, of all that is. Whether you want to see those gods as a pantheon of gods, or if you want to see them as a host of angels, it doesn't matter. The unity of the gods is what we are praising here. I will worship toward thy holy temple. Now, in magic, worship means work. So your work, what you do in the world, the things that you do here in the world, if you are worshiping, you are dedicating the work to infinite intelligence. So when you worship toward thy holy temple, that means everything that you do in this world is dedicated to the holy temple of infinite intelligence. What is the holy temple of infinite intelligence, and where can you find that? In your mind. In your mind. The holy temple is that place in our minds that infinite intelligence created for us, and that's where we live, that's where we thrive, and that's where we actually have all of our being. And when we forget about the holy temple and we believe that we live in separate bodies and separate universes and we have our little individual needs, we forget what that holy temple is. But we're saying no, even though it looks like I'm a waitress, even though it looks like I'm an accountant, even though it looks like I'm a dancer, even though it looks like I'm an actor, I am dedicating my work toward that holy temple. I'm dedicating everything I do to the remembrance of who I am as a soul and how I was created and why I was created and what my power is here. And praise thy name for thy loving kindness. How do you praise the name of God? The name of God is the nature of God. So you think about the qualities of God and you remember enthusiastically how good they are. You remember how good life is. Life itself is good. Life itself is good. That's praising the name of God. My soul is good. The idea that I could be an extension of the infinite, that's good. That's praising the name of God. Spirit is good. That which cannot be destroyed. That which is omnipresent, eternal, of which I'm a part. I'm a part of that. I'm part of spirit too. That's good. That's praising the name of God. Infinite intelligence is good. Infinite intelligence is so good. The fact that babies come out of embryos, the fact that planets revolve around a central sun, the fact that stars are born, infinite intelligence, that's good. That's praising the name of God. So you can go through all of those qualities of spirit and come up with all kinds of qualities of spirit. And that is praising the name of God by just thinking about how good that is. So praise thy name for thy loving kindness. Now, thy loving kindness is, again, sphere number 4 on the tree of life, loving kindness, mercy. So we are praising the name because there is mercy, there is loving kindness. Infinite intelligence loves us no matter what. You know, a lot of people get the misunderstanding that infinite intelligence loves you when you're being a good boy or a good girl. No. Infinite intelligence loves you no matter what and realizes that you can't be anything but good. You can dream that you're being bad. You can have horrible experiences that you concoct in your imagination here, and we all do that. This whole world is a concoction of our imaginations. But God knows the truth, and so God doesn't stop loving us. God doesn't stop giving us mercy. For thy truth, and truth again is sphere number 4. That's one of the qualities of spirit for the Archangel Sakiel, and that's also sphere number 4. It's a very sphere number 4 psalm, and usually where there's sphere number 4, there's also sphere number 5 because they tend to work in consort, and that comes later in the psalm when he's talking about the right hand of the Lord. For thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. Okay, so the word of God is the will of God. God's intention, if you will. God intends that you be here. God intends that you be created. God intends everything that is true. So that is the word of God, God's will. Now, thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. So all the qualities of God are just a blip, a little mini understanding that there is this power. We can barely even comprehend the totality of this power. In the day when I cried, thou answeredest me. And so the crying out means, we always kind of like to cover this each time this comes up because it's important to remember that we have to make the first move. Infinite intelligence waits patiently for us, but won't come in and just do things to us because that's a form of attack. We talk about this frequently. You wouldn't want to be hanging out one day and have a bunch of soldiers come in and say, you know what, we're going to move you to Cincinnati because we know you'll be happy there. Pack up your belongings. Nobody wants that. Even if it is for our own good, that's none of your business. Let me decide I want to go to Cincinnati, right? So infinite intelligence isn't going to do that. But infinite intelligence waits for our cry. And our cry simply means that we've decided to get the ball rolling. We've decided to be the catalyst. So in the day when I cried, thou answeredest me. It's important to remind ourselves frequently, when I make the first move, I get a response from infinite intelligence. And it's always the case. It's always been thus, and it will always be thus. And strengthenest me with the strength in my soul, with strength in my soul. Now that is hinting to sphere number 5. The strength of the Lord is Geburah, and that is the severity of God. That means that wherever there is a problem in our life, we have defense built into us. Infinite intelligence is our defense because that defense comes through us, but not from us. And that's what our strengthening my soul is. So it's important to remind ourselves that we don't need to be defensive. That's not our function here. The defense comes from infinite intelligence, and we are already defended. And when we try to defend ourselves, we actually interfere with God's defense of us. All the kings of the earth shall praise thee, O Lord, when they hear the words of thy mouth. This is another line that the theologians just can't seem to handle, because they say, well, wait a minute, why are they talking about the kings of the earth when this is a singular person that's giving thanks to the Lord? This doesn't make sense. It must mean. But to a psalm magician, it's very obvious, because we understand that the kings of the earth simply mean the kingpins of every thought form that we have. So just like the kings are rulers of nations, nations are overarching thought forms in our minds. And so the kingpin thought that holds that thought form together, that's what this is. And we are commanding our minds to have those kingpins praising the Lord, which means praising infinite intelligence, when they hear the words of thy mouth. Now, how do you hear the words of God's mouth? And what is God's mouth? Well, God doesn't have a body. Infinite intelligence doesn't have a body because it's infinite. So the mouth represents how we receive infinite intelligence's communications to us. The words of thy mouth are the way we receive our intuition, our hits, our leads in the world. So maybe you have a big worry that's coming up. Maybe you've got a court case or something like that, and you do this spell. Infinite intelligence is going to give you leads. It's going to tell you what to do, where to go, how to get there, who to talk to. You're going to follow those leads, and you're commanding all those kingpin thoughts to do that. Because what happens is, let's say you have a thought form that has the kingpin of, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it. And that's the leading thought form. That's going to automatically oppose anything that brings you success in this experience, in this problem. Let's say you, like I said, you had a court case. So you're commanding all those kingpin thoughts, even the ones that are so-called negative, that they are going to praise God. And so if those thought forms start to say, oh, infinite intelligence is good, we're going to hear the words of the mouth of God, we're going to follow infinite intelligence's lead. Even our most negative thought forms are then under the command of our oversoul, if you will, to follow our leads, to follow our intuition, to do that which is in front of us to do, guided and directed by infinite intelligence, instead of running amok. Yea, they shall sing in the ways of the Lord. Singing is like crying, except with crying we are making the first move because we've got a problem and we need help. Singing is disturbing the status quo of all of the thoughts in our mind which are not in alignment with infinite intelligence, which are not praising or acknowledging that something is good with infinite intelligence. So we want to sing. So all of these thought forms, all the kingpins of the thought forms, the kings of the earth, are singing in the ways of the Lord. The ways of the Lord are the vibrations of the Lord, the vibrations of infinite intelligence. It's like a tuning fork, and every thought vibration that comes from infinite intelligence is perfect for us. And if we choose to resist the vibrations of infinite intelligence, that's our right. We can do that. But now we're saying we're not doing that. So all those kings of the earth, you are vibrating to the thought forms of infinite intelligence, singing in the ways of the Lord. For great is the glory of the Lord. Now we are on sphere number 8, the glory of the Lord, and sometimes sphere number 6. But the glory of the Lord simply means the intelligence of the Lord in this case. It's the aura of God. We say the aura of God. Remember what an aura is. The aura is that which shines forth from it. If it shines forth from sphere number 8, that means infinite intelligence. That means the intelligence of God. So great is the intelligence of God. Great is the aura of God. Great are those vibrations of God. Great are those vibrations. Though the Lord be high, yet hath he respect unto the lowly. It seems as though the Lord is way high above us and we're low, and that we're climbing Jacob's ladder to get closer to God. But infinite intelligence doesn't see it that way. Infinite intelligence has respect for you, the way you are, and sees you as you are, not the way you believe you are, because God created you as an extension of God's self. So God sees you as a beloved child that is perfect just the way you are. So though the Lord be high, yet hath he respect unto the lowly. So that's what we consider ourselves to be, lowly. But God doesn't see it that way. God doesn't see us as lowly at all. God sees us as beloved. But the proud he knoweth afar off. Now that means that if we are identifying with the proud, which is the ego mind, that part of our mind that says, nah, I don't want to be part of God. I don't want to be part of infinite intelligence. I want to carve out my own universe. I want to think my own thoughts. Nobody can tell me what to do. Me. It's not that God is saying, well, I just don't have time for you now. It's that we are attenuating or turning down our connection with infinite intelligence. It's like we are reaching out and turning the radio dial so that we do not receive God's communication anymore. We do not receive the vibrations of infinite intelligence anymore. That's what we're doing, but God's not doing it to us. And again, God just waits patiently for us until we decide to not do that. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou wilt revive me. You can't help but walk in the midst of trouble in this world. It's just a given. I think a lot of people would be a lot better off if they woke up in the morning and just said, okay, there's a lot of trouble in this world, and there's going to be a lot of trouble, and so I'm not going to let it move me. I'm not going to let it bother me, because infinite intelligence is walking with me, and if I make the choices that are given to me to make from infinite intelligence, I'm safe. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Of course you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. This world is the living dead. That's what this world is. It's a bunch of shadows. It's a bunch of illusions. It's a big overlay. Incorrectness. So yes, you're going to be walking in the midst of trouble, but God will revive you. And this is not something that will happen in the future. God's will is that you be revived, is how you want to read that. So if I'm feeling like I'm in trouble, I'm not accepting God's will. Thou shalt stretch forth thine hand against the wrath of mine enemies. The wrath of your enemies don't come from this world. They come from your mind. Now, very often, things in this world will reflect what's going on in your mind, and it will look as though the wrath of your enemies comes from people. But if you want to just constantly say, yeah, it's nothing to do with me, I have nothing to do with this, no, it's not me, it's them, it's them, then you're reinforcing an illusion, and you can only get temporary relief. It's like taking an aspirin, but it's just covering up the pain, but it's not actually getting to the cause of it. The cause of those enemies are you. Not you personally, but in your mind. They are thought forms within your mind. That again, you may not have concocted them yourself, you may have, but you may have picked them up over the generations. It's just believing the stories of this world that happen, and the stories in this world, the mistruths that we are trained in this world to believe in. And a lot of times what we believe is that the world is real and everything that's happening has nothing to do with me. And the psalm is saying, no, not so much. This world is a reflection of your deep mind. And if you get your deep mind connected with infinite intelligence and you allow the vibrations of God to permeate the thoughts of your deep mind, you let those kingpins, those kings of the earth, to be reoriented according to infinite intelligence's will for you, all in the stuff in your physical universe, your physical world will start to reflect that. So when it says, thou shalt stretch forth thine hand against the wrath of mine enemies, God's hand that's stretched forth against the wrath of your enemies simply means God will enlighten your mind so that everything that's not true gets shined away. And yes, that will cause the manifestations in your life to change as well. But understand that the manifestations in your world are in the realm of effect. And thy right hand shall save me. Now this is Geburah. So we have mercy on sphere number 4 that's balanced with severity on sphere number 5 here. So that means that God's right hand, now remember, when you're looking at the tree of life, it looks like that mercy is on the right and severity is on the left, but that's because you're looking at it. You want to turn and back into it and recognize that God's right hand has severity on the right hand and mercy on the left hand. And the reason why is back in the day, everybody was trained to be right-handed, and so your right hand was your sword hand, the hand that you wielded your sword with. So God's going to destroy those thought forms for you, save you from your own thought forms. The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Isn't that nice? Everything that concerns you, God's going to perfect. Not against your will, but if you agree to it, if you ask for it, if you give permission for it, if you work this psalm, everything, not just whatever you brought to this psalm, not just that one situation, but everything that concerns you, God's going to perfect it. Here we are again with God as alchemist, perfecting you, refining you. And you don't, it's not that God made something kind of junky and now has to fix it. That's not what perfecting means. Perfecting means extracting the truth of who you are from your mind and letting everything that's not true that you've come up with over the years to just be shined away. O Lord, endureth forever. Well, that's sort of like saying, O sun, shine. O water, be wet. O trees, be wood. No, the Lord is enduring. That's the whole idea. So it's not so much that we're asking God, please don't stop being. We're just acknowledging that there is enduring power in infinite intelligence, that it's eternal, that it's not subject to time. There is no beginning, middle, and end. There's nothing that dies in infinite intelligence. Forsake not the works of thine own hands. Now, this is us trying to act like infinite intelligence acts like us. We're the ones that forsake the work of our hands. We're the ones that do things like get married and then get divorced. We're the ones that create businesses and then destroy them. We're the ones that do things to hurt our bodies. We're the ones that do that. God doesn't do that. God's not the one that forsakes the work of God's own hands. God will never forsake you. That's not part of infinite intelligence. That's stuff that we do. So if it seems ever as though infinite intelligence is forsaking you, it just simply means you've turned your back on it. You've decided, no, I think I know what to do better. I'm going to do it my way. So when we say, forsake not the work of thine own hands, it's an affirmation that infinite intelligence is always with us, for us, and on our side. And as long as we stay with our eyes turned toward infinite intelligence, that infinite intelligence's will always be done through us, and that's up to us. So now you just keep coming back to this psalm each and every day, and eventually you're going to get a sense of certainty and peace about whatever the situation is. And when you get that click, as I call it, you'll know everything's done, and you don't have to work on it anymore. You can just move off of it and go on to something else. So thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. Until next time, blessed be.